Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to your day as we go through another live here this morning. Good morning. And Nick from our staff, Mike, good to have you on. Rosalinda and Kim. Okay, John and Nativity and Linda. Good morning, guys. Much appreciated. Francis Marie, Sherry from Mississauga. And you guys are wonderful. Bonjour, Diane and Micheline. Bon matin. Good to have you on with us this morning. Madeleine, good to have you on this morning. Another Linda from St. Jude, Quebec. We love la belle province. Heather, Rita from Nouveau Brunswick. Dear friends, good morning to you. And same to you, Jane. Keith from Bell River near Windsor. Janet and Wendy, good morning to you. Chantal, nice to have you on with us this morning. I know I miss people because and Jerry, yes, go Habs go. We're still alive. Debbie, good morning to you. And Shelley from New Brunswick. And Helen, good morning. Marin, good morning, Marin. And is it Stafford Joseph or Joseph Stafford from Montreal? John, good morning. And Melody from British Columbia. Well, Melody, good morning to you. 5:30 in the morning. Julie, Pam. Okay, a couple of more. Another Nicole from Chemmy. I'm assuming Chelmsford. And Linda and Diane. And another Diane. Good morning. Lots of Dianes on this morning. Here we go. Got a good crowd. Here we go. Okay. So, and I'll come on and say hi to the rest. Allison and Sue and Lorraine, and then I will say hi to the rest as I come on. I'll come on afterwards and do that. Questions I ask. This is a little series I'm doing calling, I've sort of named it Questions I Asked, okay? I ask. And I was explaining to you yesterday that I really like to, I'm a guy that goes, Tony Jr. uses this term, reverse engineer everything, okay? So, if you see something, how did it get there, okay? Especially medically, okay? And just some things like a virus or a bacteria can just pop up. But I'm a big guy on looking at cause and effect, okay? So I like to reverse engineer, and I used to do that in my practice for years and years and years. Like if you got problems, I would ask the questions, okay? So, questions that I ask. And so yesterday we looked at when someone has, if I see, okay, a woman, let's say I'm at the mall and I don't know the person from Adam and I see a woman that has trouble with obesity. The first question in my head, or the first thing that I think of, is that woman has hormonal problems. That woman has hormonal problems. And that's just the way I think, because, and there's always exceptions to that, but the vast majority of people, women that are obese, they have a hormonal problem. It's horror-mones for them. Now, a man, that's different. Men, we have no excuse. If we're putting on weight, I mean, 1 out of 1,000,000 men might have a thyroid problem, but not women. Women are so complex, and you know me and how I build that pyramid for women. And they've got ovaries, complicated. They have adrenal glands, complicated. They have their thyroid, complicated. Because they're all connected. In a man, it's not that, men don't have ovaries, obviously, but when a man's testes, you know what? It don't mean nothing. If they have obesity, it's because they're eating the wrong foods. Now, part of the correction, so let me just state this. For a woman, a huge part of the correction of their hormones starts with the reset. But you have to understand that women can be in a metabolic storm. Men don't get into a metabolic storm. Women get into a metabolic storm. Estrogen dominance. Estrogen is a growth hormone. What does it do? It holds on to fat. Okay? When the thyroid slows down because you're making too much estrogen, it holds on to fat. When you make cortisol because it's too much stress in your life, cortisol slows the thyroid down. Thus, you gain weight. You know what I used to see a lot of times? Women would come into the office after a baby, maybe a year or 2 years after having child number 2, or maybe number 1, but 2 or 3. And you know what, Doc? I never had trouble losing weight. Now I got lots of trouble losing weight. I put on, 50, 60 pounds, and I can't get rid of it. I'm exercising, I'm dieting. I used to tell them, okay, but you got to fix your hormones first. Because if you don't fix your hormones, you're not going to fix the problem. But the nice, good thing about the fix was doing the reset, because when you get your insulin down, it starts to, and you empty the liver, it starts to help your conversion of T4 to T3. Your thyroid starts working better. Your estrogen dominance goes down. Now, you might need a little bit of help with that, supplements. That's why we talk about that, knocking down the estrogen and stimulating the thyroid gland even more. But the diet, okay, so this series is based on the next few sessions we're going to have. We're going to talk about, I want you guys to think, okay? I want to teach you how to think. And this is really important for you because it'll help you. It'll help you to determine, maybe even, like I said yesterday, for yourself first. But when you look at what's happening out there in the world out there, it gives you a better idea of what's happening. Why are people like that? Like I talked about, if I see an autistic child, okay, numero uno, for an autistic child, I want to know whether that child was on antibiotics early in life, usually for ear infections, or mommy was on antibiotics just before pregnancy or during pregnancy, often there's a connection between autism. Why? Because autism is leaky gut. Leaky gut, leaky brain. You see how I think? That's just me. It's the way I operate. I want to go backwards. I want to reverse engineer because to me that's important. And how I came to that is over years and years of experience of seeing real people and asking questions, questionnaires. Fill out the questionnaire. I talked to you in the past about chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. What was the cause of that? There's definitely leaky gut involved, but the biggest thing in chronic fatigue, so you see a patient exhausted, chronic fatigue, they can't seem to get out of it. I'm telling you that at the bottom line, antibiotics to cause the leaky gut, usually, almost invariably, plus stress. Long period of stressing the cortisol, distressing the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands never stop producing cortisol. And then one day, whammo, you develop chronic fatigue syndrome / fibromyalgia, and they go, gee, what happened to me? And doctors are scratching their head because all they want to do is treat the symptoms of chronic fatigue and fibro. You're depressed. Listen, can I tell you something? If I got up every morning and I was exhausted, I'd be depressed too. Okay? Depression doesn't come first. Depression comes because you're exhausted. You know me. I get up in the morning and, give me 5 minutes, get the cobwebs out, give me my water, and then I have my coffee, and I am at 100%. What does aging do to Dr. Martin and others? Well, my battery just don't last as long as it used to, but it charges really good as long as I get enough sleep and that. And I get up in the morning, I'm full of pea and vinegar. Do you know what I mean? I hope you like my old expressions. Some people go, what is that? Well, they're just old expressions. Remember? I'm full of pea and vinegar. Who made that up? I don't know. Okay? No, but that's me. So if I get up one day and I'm tired, it's because I usually didn't sleep right or I overdid it but that's one day. Normal is the next day, I'm ready to go. Battery's fully charged. Now, as you get older, your batteries might fully charge, but you just won't last as long. You're not the ever-ready bunny for 24/7. You have to shut yourself down, get some rest, and recharge those batteries. But you see how I think? Chronic fatigue never comes first. There's a history to it. Fibromyalgia, autism, always the connection. We brought out that study yesterday that kids, when they have trouble with their insulin, when they have fatty liver, when they have all these troubles, because of their diet as children, now they're finding out they've had enough time to look at it. When they get older, they get trouble with the depression. They have psychosis. They have different problems, mental health problems. What a connection. And I refer you to my friend, Dr. McEwen, who knows all about nutrition and psychosis. the connection. Medicine doesn't get it. They're not there yet. Well, maybe they'll never get there. I don't know. Because they don't know 2 pennies worth of nutrition. They just don't. Okay. So when I see, okay, so let's bring it to the modern era right now. When I see a patient, they said, oh, doc, or they tell me about their mother or whatever, they got COVID. They got the virus. You know what I think? I go backwards. Did they get really sick? Yes. Well, 2 things. They had a pre-existing condition, metabolic syndrome, 100%. High blood pressure, which is insulin, right? And so for me, if they got sick, I know what the problem is. They had a pre-existing condition. That's why this virus doesn't hit children. Children don't get sick from this virus. They don't. And number 2, so number 1, pre-existing condition. I'm talking about people that get really sick. We should have learned the lesson. We should have learned the lesson. This should have been because we had an 18-month experiment, guys. It was a medical experiment. We should have come out of this thing with two important, really important, hey guys, we know what happens in a pandemic. Oh yeah, what is that? 1, you're not going to get sick, generally, if you don't have pre-existing conditions. They're going to write books about it. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about writing a book about it. And even in the Reset book, I talked because I was writing that book during COVID. And I was talking about the elephant in the room. We missed the whole stinking point. People only got sick because they had pre-existing conditions. Metabolic syndrome. They had trouble with insulin. Numero uno. Numero duo. Okay. Number 2. And I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it. They missed out on Viderma, the booster shot, the Martin Clinic vitamin. You know me. And this is a fact, guys. Anybody that got sick, almost no exceptions to it. They had metabolic syndrome, meaning, what is that? Meaning they had a food problem. Number 2, they had a sun problem. They didn't have good enough levels of serum vitamin D. Those are the 2 biggest takeaways. We should have been so adamant. This was a teaching moment for the world. The trouble we get into in the world is because we have faulty nutrition. Because 99% of the doctors, whether you have cancer, heart disease, or even diabetes, I mean, you could hardly believe it, but even diabetes or Alzheimer's, and to most people in the medical profession, most, I'm not saying all, most people in the medical profession, you have cancer, cardiovascular, okay, heart disease and stroke, still the number 1 killer, Alzheimer's or diabetes, and they don't talk about the diet. Cancer. oncologist. For heaven's sakes, they send you home with Boost or ensuring that your cancer is going to grow. They don't get the connection. They don't get the connection. Heart disease. Well, if anything, okay, because I even heard it yesterday. If anything, well, just cut out your red meat and don't eat too many eggs, okay, and no bacon. Oh, my word. No, but and guys, Alzheimer's. They're not talking about food and Alzheimer's. They're not talking even about food and diabetes. If you're a diabetic, it's food. It's not genetics. It's food. It's food. But it's the way it is. It's the way it is. Okay? So, whenever you send me your blood test, okay, if you do, and I'm looking at triglyceride, I don't want to look at 100 things. I really don't. If you want to send it to me, I go right through it. Oh, it got flagged. I don't care. I'm not looking for that. Okay? So don't try and put me into the weeds. I don't go into the weeds when I look at blood work. I really don't. It's not interesting. I'm looking at the big picture. Okay? It doesn't bother me because I'm looking at the big picture. I want to know what your triglycerides are. I want to know what your HDL is. That tells me a big story. That tells me a big story. I want to see what your B12 levels are. That tells me a big story. I want to see if you can get it, your vitamin D levels, because I already talked to you about the significance of that. You know what they should have done through COVID? You know when they were doing the COVID testing, which, by the way, is unbelievable, bad science, okay? I'm just saying it is. If you got no symptoms, why are you being tested? But what they should have done, if the world was smart, they would have said, you know what? Here's one test we're going to do on everyone, because only those who do not have enough vitamin D in their bloodstream are the ones who are subject to being seriously ill with this bug. Yep, they should have done it. They would have saved gazillions of dollars by doing dehydroxy 25, vitamin D levels in the blood. But it's never, I should never say never, but I'm not holding my breath, okay, for this to happen. But that's what they should have done. It would have given them a much better, what's the use of testing a child for the virus? Who cares? Anyway, it gets me going because it drives me crazy, okay? So when I see COVID, I reverse engineer. They have metabolic syndrome. Oh, look, maybe they're 85 too, okay? But even then, people that were getting ill, like severe, like seniors, were because they had metabolic syndrome or low levels of vitamin D, which is 90% of the population, for heaven's sakes. Now, if you had low levels of vitamin D, doesn't mean you're going to get sick either. But if you got sick, you had low levels of vitamin D. How do you like that? Okay. when I see a cancer patient. What do I think? What questions do I ask? Well, vitamin D, for sure. I want to know what your vitamin D levels, especially breast or colon cancer, prostate cancer, low levels of vitamin D, almost invariably, and high levels of estrogen, and high levels of insulin. That's what they should be testing, because insulin and estrogen are growth hormones. Insulin makes things grow. So does estrogen. So you get a little tumor and you put insulin on it and you got a bigger tumor. You got a little tumor and you put estrogen on it and it grows. So you see how I think? And that's why my protocol, if you have cancer, whether you get chemo, radiation, both, or now immune therapy, whatever, that's the medical protocol. I have another protocol because I want, whether you're getting this side, the medical part of it, or only part of it, or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. That's there. Medicine's doing their thing. I want you to build your immune system, or your family, whoever got it. Look, no sugar, no carbohydrates, don't feed the bears, don't let cancer cells grow, knock your estrogen down, elevate your vitamin D. Now we know something else that I've made it part of my protocol. If you want to know how I think, it's not, you got cancer, let's go to Mexico. Well, you can go to Mexico if you want. I don't care. But I don't care what you do, but you better do this. Don't feed it. No sugar. Make sure your serum vitamin D levels are optimized. Because your immune system needs that. And the new one is the new kid on the block for cancer therapy, and this is brand new for me, is DHA. High DHA. It makes tumors not grow. It destroys them. Unbelievable. This new promising research on DHA and tumors. I love it. Wonderful. Make it part of your protocol. So, you see how I think? And look, guys, you guys have followed me long enough. None of this should be surprising to you. But I don't mind teaching you. I don't mind showing you how I think. Okay? How I think. And it's, there's, when I see someone, again, let's say I see a blood test and I send back, well, you got kidney stress because your creatinine is too high, or your protein in your urine is too high. Well, that's kidney stress. That's caused by sugar. You're a carboholic. Stop. It ain't salt. It's sugar. Only two things you have to worry about when it comes to kidneys. Drink enough water, and only water is water, and eliminate sugar. Again, it's insulin. It's food. It's not salt. Okay? So when I see kidney problems, okay? when I see, this is just by the way, okay, because it's a question I ask, okay? So I ask the question every time. You know, it happens much more frequently in the United States. I mean, they have 10 times the population that we do, okay? But whenever you see, for me anyways, and I always look it up if I can find it. Whenever you see a mass shooting, okay, where somebody just sort of flipped and they kill 10 people or whatever, okay, or they were on a suicide mission. You know what the question I asked? What do you think I asked? Was that person on antidepressants? You know what the problem is? Antidepressants, I'm not saying not even to take them. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there's a small percentage of people when they take an antidepressant, and these are studies. I'm not even giving you my personal opinion. This is studies that have shown that there is a small amount of population that when they get on an antidepressant, they're much more likely to kill themselves or kill somebody else. Now, not all, okay? So please don't come back at me. I'm just, whenever I see on the news a mass shooting, whatever, I always want to ask the question, are they on antidepressants? And guess what? About 99% of them are. So am I blaming that? No. But it's an observation. And nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. There's it's like marijuana, guys, because people ask me, what about marijuana, Doc? What do you think of that? Well, it's legal. Do I like it? No. I'll tell you why. It's like alcohol. Okay? There are certain people that they can't have alcohol. They don't do well with that. So I'm always very cautious. Oh, yeah, No, but there's some people that become alcoholics like that. Like nothing. And kids who are experimenting with marijuana, there's going to be a percentage of them, and this is, again, you can look this up for yourself. Look up marijuana and schizophrenia. There are certain people, a percentage, I don't know if it's 10% or less, but it's still significant, that are going to have mental health problems. So when people asked me, when they were talking about legislation for this and making it legal, I didn't want anybody to go to jail, but I didn't want them to encourage people to be, taking a trip without leaving the farm. Because it's a drug. And why do you need it? Anyway, okay. Okay, so guys, thanks for putting up with my rants. I appreciate it. We love you guys. You know that. And sometimes I push the envelope a little bit, but I want you thinking. It's part of my DNA is to reverse engineer everything. And I like it, okay? Okay, I like it. So that's the way I operate. So you can understand. I try and focus in on things. And I look at history. I'm a history buff. I'm a history buff in the world's history. I love history. And I love your history. Okay? I do. Anyone that ever wanted to be a patient at the Martin Clinic found out they weren't coming in to see me without filling out your history. I needed to know that. I found it to be essential. It helped me develop protocols and understanding disorders. Okay? A few of which I named today. Okay. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. If you haven't got the book, The Reset, please join in and get that book. It is a tremendous book. If you're not a member of the private Facebook group, please join that. We appreciate you guys, love you guys so much. We love that group. Third, if you can't, or your family are not live with me, friends and family, tell them to get to the podcast, okay? The Doctor is in podcast, the number one podcast in Canada on health, okay? It's the number one. So get people to, you can get it downloaded on your smartphone. Now, don't ask me how to do that. I don't know how to do it, okay? The dinosaur, you're looking at him. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you soon.